I hadn't driven down that street in almost a year. The pines were still dense, the road still quiet, and the garden out front looked like it hadn't missed a single watering. My parents never let things fall out of order. Not their lawn, not their table settings, and especially not their version of reality. I parked at the edge of the driveway. Didn't turn the engine off for a minute. Just sat there, hands on the wheel, staring at the house I grew up in, if growing up is what you'd call it. I'd brought a gift for my mother. Something simple. She'd never asked for anything, but she always expected you to read between the lines. The smell hit me first when I opened the front door. Wood polish, rosemary, and something faintly metallic underneath. Probably the new faucet. My footsteps echoed over the tile, as polished as ever. "Thorn," my mother said when she appeared in the hallway. No hug, no smile, just my name, clipped and thin. They were already seated by the time I entered the dining room. The long table gleamed under the chandelier. Silverware in perfect alignment, wine glasses reflecting crystal-clear judgment. I spotted the place cards immediately, each with ornate lettering, each name centered above pristine white plates. Except mine. My spot was at the very end, a folding chair tucked beside a buffet cabinet. No card, no monogrammed napkin. Maybe they forgot, I told myself. But my chest knew better. No one commented on my arrival. A few nods. Serafina offered a tight-lipped smile before returning to her phone. Damien gave me the same look he gives his barista, acknowledging, but not really. I sat down, carefully, like I wasn't sure the chair would hold my weight. Dinner began the way all our family dinners did, like a press conference. Serafina launched into the story of her latest closing on a multi-million-dollar property in Scottsdale. She always had the best client stories. Always had the spotlight. Damien cut in to talk about his new startup. AI-based fitness optimization, he said. Already got a VC interested. Alara and Lennox, my mother and father, nodded through every word. Eyes bright, faces warm. I waited for a gap, a breath, a lull in the parade of polished success. "I was promoted last week," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "The nonprofit just hit its funding goal and—" Alara waved her hand like she was shooing a fly. "That's nice, dear," she said, already looking at Serafina again. I stared down at my plate. The silverware was generic, no initials. Everyone else had theirs, always did. "Presentation is everything," my mother used to say. "No name, no place." The salt stung harder than usual. Maybe it wasn't the food. Maybe it was the realization that I'd come back hoping they'd see me differently, when nothing had changed. I tried again. "It's a big step for me. I've been with the nonprofit for—" Lennox set down his fork. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "You're the most useless child we have, Thorn." No gasp. No protest. Just the scrape of Serafina's knife over her plate. Damien chuckled. "Damn," he muttered under his breath. My throat closed, but not from shock. Not really. It was the silence that followed. That's what burned. I looked at them, my family. My mother sipping wine like she hadn't just endorsed that statement. My father cutting into his roast like he hadn't just said it. They meant it, I thought. All of them. My mind pulled me back to every childhood scene that matched this feeling. Being left at school because they forgot. Getting blamed for the mess in the hallway because I should have stopped it. I looked down at my untouched plate. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't even angry. I was awake. I folded my napkin. Slowly. Methodically. Placed it on the table like it still meant something. Then I looked at them, one by one. Eye contact. Direct, cold. No one flinched. No one spoke. And then I smiled, not from joy, not from forgiveness, but because something inside me had finally broken loose. "You have no idea what you just started," I thought. After dinner, I lingered. It was never about helping. It was about staying visible. A plate cleared here, a napkin folded there. Just small enough not to disturb, just present enough not to be forgotten. But when I reached for the stack of dishes, my mother waved me off. "Already done, sweetheart. Serafina took care of it." Her voice didn't carry warmth, just finality. like she'd already decided my usefulness had expired for the evening. Damien poured himself another glass of red and leaned into Serafina's shoulder, laughing about something I couldn't hear. Their post-dinner ritual had already begun. Wine, validation, the quiet comfort of not being questioned. I stood there for a moment too long, holding an empty plate with nowhere to set it. Then I turned, walked into the kitchen. Old habit. I always drank lemon water after heavy meals. My mother used to say it helped with digestion, back when her advice felt like care. On the counter, a pitcher waited with a sticky note on it. Thorne's lemon water. I blinked. That detail should have felt sweet, personal. Instead, it made my stomach tense. Still, I poured a glass. The moment the liquid hit my tongue, I knew something was off. Not spoiled, not foul, just sharp. It wasn't lemon, it was metal. I set the glass down slower than I meant to. "Mom?" I called into the living room, my voice neutral. "Is this a new kind of lemon?" She didn't look back. "It's just lemon and water, darling. Maybe your taste buds are more sensitive these days." Before I could answer, Serafina chimed in, not even glancing up from her phone. "Or maybe it's karma for making the night about your promotion." No one laughed. No one corrected her either. I didn't finish the glass. Back in the living room, the others had scattered. Damien was texting. Alara sat on the edge of the couch with a cup of decaf in hand. I approached slowly and set the small box on the coffee table. A monogrammed tea set, ivory ceramic, iris motif. I'd picked it out 2 months earlier. She glanced at the wrapping. "Oh, that's nice." Then turned back to the TV, leaving the gift untouched. She used to open things, even when she didn't like them. I stood there a moment longer, then sat down on the edge of the armrest, hands tucked into my lap. "You always try too hard," she'd once said. I was 14, holding a handmade birthday card. I never made another one after that. The next morning, I returned to the kitchen to grab my scarf before heading out. The air was colder, or maybe I just noticed it more. Passing by the laundry room, something caught my eye. An open cardboard box labeled "Donation, Monday Pickup." Near the top, untouched, still wrapped in gold paper, was the tea set, not even moved, just placed there. I didn't touch it, didn't say a word. She didn't forget. She just didn't care to pretend. I left without saying goodbye. On the drive home, I found myself building excuses. Maybe she thought I left it by mistake. Maybe she was rewrapping it for later. But my gut knew better. I'd been making excuses for years, for all of them, so they wouldn't have to. A line I once saw on a bumper sticker drifted into my mind. I didn't remember where or when, but it stuck. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I reached my apartment just before noon. Didn't bother locking the door behind me right away. Jacket on the chair, scarf on the floor. I poured myself a fresh glass of water, just water, no lemon, no aftertaste. I sipped slowly, waiting for something to hit the back of my tongue. Nothing did. I walked to my desk, opened my planner. Inside was a note I'd written the week before. "Dinner with family. Maybe they'll see me this time." I stared at it, then crumpled it, tossed it in the trash. I wasn't bitter, I wasn't angry, but something had shifted, something final. I woke up with fire in my throat, not a soreness, not allergies. It burned deep, like I'd swallowed something that didn't belong in my body. I sat up, dizzy, convinced I'd just slept wrong. Maybe the air in the guest room was dry. Maybe it was stress. I drank a glass of water and sat quietly on the edge of the bed, waiting for it to pass. It didn't. By the time I slipped my shoes on, my hands were shaking. My pulse was too loud in my ears. I stared at myself in the mirror and whispered, "Get through the shift. Just push." The clinic was 10 minutes away, and I spent 9 of those minutes trying to convince myself this wasn't anything, that I was tired, that I'd be fine. Amelia noticed the moment I walked through the door. She asked if I'd eaten. I hadn't. She asked if I was okay. I lied. I don't remember falling. I remember the cold floor. I remember voices, one of them saying my name over and over. Then white light, I came to in a sterile bed, pale sheet tucked up to my collarbone. A nurse stood over me with a clipboard, watching my monitors like something might spike again. She leaned in and said, "Your labs showed signs of chemical ingestion. Nothing fatal, but not normal." My stomach dropped. The lemon water. She kept talking about tests and fluids, but I cut her off. "Who called my emergency contact?" "Amelia tried your mother," she said. No answer? No one answered. No one. Later, I scrolled through my call log. 6 missed calls to Alara. Not one returned. No voicemail. No text. If I had died, I thought, they wouldn't have known until the hospital billed them. Amelia sat beside me on a plastic chair and didn't say much. That's why I liked her. She didn't rush to fix the silence. After a while, I whispered, "They said I was the most useless child. I guess this proves them right." She looked at me, steady, and said, "No. This proves you're the strongest one they ever underestimated." They kept me overnight. I didn't sleep. Just stared at the ceiling, tracing the vents, counting each slow breath. The next day, they discharged me with a warning to rest, hydrate, and follow up with my primary if symptoms returned. I nodded through it. I didn't plan to call anyone. Back home, I turned on my laptop to check a few missed emails. That's when I saw it, an alert from a shared calendar I hadn't used in months. I clicked out of habit. Tucked inside was a message thread I wasn't supposed to see. Probably left open by accident, synced from Damien's old Google account. I didn't expect much, but the first line made my blood run cold. "Damien. She's back again. You promised to take care of it last time." "Alara. I did. Apparently, not well enough." "Serafina. Maybe next time something stronger, or just tell her she's cut off officially." No jokes, no emojis, just cold, strategic dialogue. I stared at the screen for a long time. Reread it 5 times. There was no misunderstanding this. They weren't just pushing me away, they were coordinating it. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I remembered being 12 and getting grounded for reading Serafina's journal. My mother stood over me and said, "Privacy matters in this house." Now I'd accidentally read something worse, and it proved my place, or lack of it. I thought about deleting it. I hovered over the trash icon, then stopped. I screenshot the whole thread, saved it twice, one on the cloud, one on a USB in my drawer. Didn't know why, just knew I had to. That night, I powered my phone all the way off, location tracking too. I looked in the mirror, really looked. My face was paler than usual, but something behind my eyes was sharper. "They don't want me," I said out loud, "but I'm not leaving quietly anymore." The lights in the apartment flickered, just for a second. I didn't flinch. I set my alarm for 6:30 a.m. No snooze, no more delays. Staring out the window into the still dark, I whispered to no one in particular, maybe just myself. "You started something. I'll finish it." Sleep didn't come easy after the hospital. I'd been lying awake for hours, scrolling through old files stored on my laptop, things I hadn't touched since before Dad started talking about legacy planning. I opened a folder labeled Estate Drafts, and there it was. My name, listed clearly on the original will. I sat still for a long time, looking at it. Something in me already knew what I'd find if I asked the right person. So I called my grandfather's old lawyer. Said it was about confirming property transfers. Casual enough. He hesitated at first. Then came the sigh. "Thorne, your name was removed about 6 months ago." I asked who signed off on it. Silence again. Then, "Your mother, officially." I hung up, staring at the blank screen. My hand stayed on the mouse, frozen. "Of course she did," I whispered. Later that evening, just as I'd started to settle into silence again, an email from Serafina landed in my inbox. Family Visioning Dinner. The title made my skin itch. The invite was styled like a startup's quarterly pitch, words like strategic alignment, Delano values, legacy pillars. I wanted to delete it, block the sender, shut the laptop, but I needed clarity more than I needed comfort. I arrived just before sunset, kept my coat on, walked straight to the back of the table. No nameplate this time, just an empty seat next to a tray of bread rolls no one touched. I told myself not to care. I was lying. In my purse was the printed copy of the old will. Just in case. Dinner went as expected. Polished. Plastic. Then Serafina raised her glass and launched into a story about a school trip when I'd apparently gotten lost because even GPS can't find her. Polite laughter. Elara smirked and added, "She's always had a talent for disappearing." The room chuckled again. I didn't laugh. Didn't argue. I just observed. The timing, the tone, the practiced nature of it all. It wasn't spontaneous, it was curated. I thought about standing up right then, holding up the document, reading out the timeline, but I knew it wouldn't land. Not here, not with people who had already decided my version of events didn't matter. After dessert, I approached Dad. Quietly slipped the folded paper across the table. He opened it under the tablecloth, brow furrowing for a moment. He didn't argue, he didn't explain, just said, "You weren't supposed to see that." "But it's true?" I asked. He nodded. It wasn't personal. It was cleaner this way. Cleaner for who? He looked away. No answer came. The silence was louder than anything he could have said. Driving home, I didn't turn the radio on. Just listened to the hum of the tires on pavement and the echo of that one word, cleaner. It wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. They didn't want me in the will because they didn't want me in the family. Not really. I thought about the time I signed a personal guarantee on Damien's failed startup loan. They didn't ask if I could afford it. They assumed I would because I always had. My value was always tied to what I could quietly give, useful when needed, forgettable when inconvenient. Back at my apartment, I scanned the document into a new folder, renamed it, Erased Version 1.pdf. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but I kept it ready. Before bed, I stood at the kitchen sink, sipping water straight from the tap. Nothing sweet, nothing laced. Then I said it out loud, to no one but myself. If they're rewriting the story of who I was, I'm going to write my own ending. I slept late. Not on purpose, not in peace, just long enough to lose track of the light. By the time I opened my eyes, the apartment was already thick with that kind of stillness that feels more like weight than rest. The curtains stayed closed. I didn't move to open them. Leftover food sat on the counter, untouched. I'd made dinner 2 nights ago and never bothered to eat it. I sat at the table, scrolling through my phone. There was a photo, Damien, Serafina, and my parents all lined up, drinks in hand, grinning like someone had pressed "Perfect Family" on a remote. The caption said, "Delano Family Strategy Weekend." I stared until the screen blurred, then flipped the phone face down. They were moving on. I was the only one still standing in the wreckage. Later that afternoon, I started cleaning, not because I wanted to, but because I needed something that made noise, something louder than my own thoughts. In the back of a closet, inside a box labeled "junk drawer," I found a shoebox from high school. Dusty, dented. Inside were old things, burned CDs, movie stubs, crumpled notes, a badge from my first job at the campus bookstore. At the very bottom, tucked beneath a roll of masking tape, I found a small flash drive, handwritten on the side. Greaves, 2009. I almost tossed it aside, probably old resumes or backup files, but something told me not to. I plugged it in. And there it was, an audio file, no name, just a timestamp. I clicked play. A voice came through, scratchy but familiar. "I heard them," it said. "Don't put her on the will. She's soft. She'll forget. We need the strong ones." Mrs. Greaves, our old housekeeper. She must have recorded it. My chest tightened. I played it again. And again. In the background, I could make out Serafina laughing. Elara's voice, calm as ever. "Just make sure she's distracted." I looked at the timestamp. That weekend I'd been grounded, for being dramatic. I remembered hearing voices then. Muffled. Behind a door. I told my mother about it. She told me I was imagining things, but I wasn't. They didn't just exclude me, they planned it. 3 days passed before I decided to go back to the house. Just for mail. That was the excuse I told myself. Elara wasn't home. The woman cleaning didn't look older than 22. She didn't ask questions. In the kitchen, sitting near the edge of the counter, was a bottle I recognized instantly. Plastic, labeled in bold black marker. S. Lemon Cleanse. I picked it up, uncapped it, brought it to my nose. Same scent. Sharp. Acidic. Familiar in a way I wished it wasn't. I took a picture, then placed it right back where it was. I didn't say a word. That night, sitting at my desk, I stared at the photo, the bottle, the label, the handwriting. "What's the S for?" I had asked once, right after dinner. "You're the only one who insists on healthy habits," my mother had answered, smiling like it was a compliment. But it wasn't. It was rehearsed. Practiced. The bottle wasn't accidental. It was routine. And the S? It was never for summer. Or special. It was for me. I thought I was being cautious. Turns out I was being erased. Neatly. Quietly. The kind of erasure that doesn't scream. It just removes, reassigns, rewrites. Later, I backed everything up. The audio file, the photo of the bottle, the list of transfers I'd made over the years to cover my brother's debts, things no one ever acknowledged. I didn't send them to anyone, not yet. But I printed one thing. A photo of me, age 9, standing alone at a school science fair, holding a poster board bigger than I was. I pinned it to the fridge. "You weren't crazy," I whispered to the girl in the picture. "You just didn't have proof, until now." Then I opened my laptop and started a new folder. I named it My Record. A forwarded email slipped into my inbox around 3:00 p.m., Tuesday. Probably by accident. The subject line read, "Delano Foundation Gala, finalized flyer." Attached was a glossy PDF, gold and navy branding. Quotes about resilience and family. Smiling faces lined up in neat rows. Elara, Lennox, Serafina, Damien. No trace of me, cropped out completely, not even a shadow left. I stared at it, not surprised. But this time, it felt deliberate. Erasure used to be something they whispered behind closed doors. Now it was design, policy. I clicked open the calendar app. The gala was set for Thursday evening. I didn't RSVP. I didn't respond. I just showed up. And I didn't wear black like I usually did. I wore white. Simple, quiet, bright enough not to be ignored. At the event, I kept to the edge. Watched Serafina charm a group of donors with stories about growth and legacy. Elara floated between tables like she was running for something. Then it happened. A longtime family friend approached me with a smile that felt strained. "You look so stable lately," she said. Before I could respond, Elara slid into the conversation with a laugh. "Yes, well, she's finally learning how to manage her emotions. Took her long enough." It hit like a slap wrapped in silk. The woman nodded slowly, unsure what to say. I didn't flinch. I smiled, not from peace, but from knowing I'd heard that tone before. It was always in their voices, just hidden better. They've always measured me, I thought, by how little space I take up. I spotted Lennox near the back of the venue, standing near a table of untouched pamphlets. I walked over, pulled a sealed envelope from my bag, and handed it to him without a word. He looked around, opened it cautiously. Inside, a copy of the original estate draft, my name still on it, and a photo of the bottle marked S. "I'm not here to argue," I said quietly. "Just making sure history doesn't get rewritten without a footnote." He looked at the photo, then at the paper, then at me. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. I turned and walked away. Toward the end of the night, Elara stepped on stage to give her speech, her usual closer about family values, generational pride. Then she told a story. She talked about Serafina winning the 8th grade science fair, about her leadership, her brilliance. Thorne, she said, was always supportive in her own quiet way. But I remembered that project. It was mine. Serafina helped with the layout, yes, but the experiment, the write-up, the design, all mine. I remembered staying up late, burning my fingers on a glue gun, crying over spilled ink. I remembered the ribbon that had my name on it, not hers. But now Ilara stood on a stage, rewriting it for an audience that didn't know better. It wasn't a misremembering, it was rebranding. They were replacing me in real time. I didn't cry. I didn't storm the stage. I walked over to the check-in table, picked up an extra flyer, and pulled a red pen from my bag. I circled the family photo, the same one I'd been cropped out of. Then I wrote across it, "Missing daughter, erased, but not gone." I walked to the podium and laid it face up. No one stopped me. No one ever did. Back home that night, I didn't speak to anyone, but I posted something, just one line. If being quiet kept you safe, but being visible kept you honest, which would you choose? I didn't wait for comments, but I saw the view count tick up. Someone from the Delano side had seen it. I turned off my phone and waited. I opened the folder again. My record, I had named it. I wasn't sure why I kept going back to it. Habit, maybe? Or because I wanted to remind myself this wasn't just in my head. Inside was the clip I'd been sitting on, the security footage from my neighbor's outdoor camera, angled just enough to catch the Delano kitchen window. Grainy, dim, but clear enough. I clicked play. Ilara stood at the counter, steady as ever, holding a plastic cleaning bottle in one hand, a glass pitcher in the other. No hesitation. She poured, capped it, set both down like she'd done it 1,000 times. I watched it 3 times, not for shock, for confirmation. She knew what she was doing. There wasn't even a flicker of doubt in her face. Nobody had to say a word anymore. The silence was proof enough. I saved the still, the exact frame where the liquid left the bottle, on 3 different drives, then printed it, no caption, just that moment, paused forever. I emailed a copy of the still to my father with no subject line, no message. 5 minutes later, my phone lit up. I didn't answer. Then came a text. "We need to talk. That's not what you think." I replied once. "I'm not asking anymore. No lawyers, no press, not yet. Just evidence in the open, sitting quietly like a loaded weapon on the table." I uploaded the video to a private cloud folder, password protected. Titled it, "Delano Silence, 10 Seconds That Changed Everything." 2 days passed. Then came the mail. A cream-colored envelope. Thick, high-end paper. Serafina's wedding invitation. I almost tossed it without opening, but I didn't. Inside, I found my name, printed, then crossed out with red ink. Underneath, handwritten in someone's hurried script, "Do not include." Not even subtle, not even embarrassed. I stared at it. I didn't get angry. I just exhaled. Long, slow. They didn't think I'd ever see it, but they made sure I'd feel it if I did. I took a photo and placed it beside the bleach frame on my desk. One was poison, the other was petty. Both were true. The next morning, I visited a local print shop. I ordered 5 large posters. On the left, the bleach frame, Ilara mid-pour. On the right, the scanned invitation, red line and all. At the bottom, family is not always what it looks like in the photos. I didn't post them. I rolled them carefully, sealed the tube, and placed it by the door, just in case. "You don't have to scream," I wrote in my journal that night, "when the facts speak loud enough." Then I turned the page and started fresh. "You made me an outsider," I wrote. "Now I'm the historian. No more explaining, no more defending. I wasn't going to Serafina's wedding. I wasn't going to plead for space at a table they'd already cleared of my presence. I'd protect what was left of my name, not for them. For me, erasure is a weapon, but it only works if you agree to disappear." At 10:43 that night, my phone rang. Caller ID. Private number. I let it go to voicemail. Minutes later, a new message. I hit play. Serafina's voice. Cool, controlled, sharp. "You think we don't know what you're doing? Back off, Thorne. You're not the only one with receipts." I pressed save. Then I sat in silence, and I didn't blink. 3 days after Serafina's message, I stood in front of my desk, one hand on the mouse, the other hovering over a sealed envelope labeled "For the Delano Legacy Table." Inside the envelope were 5 pages, a printed still of Ilara pouring from the bleach bottle, the red-inked wedding invitation, screenshots of the group message thread, the audio from Mrs. Greaves, and one final note, written by me. Truth doesn't fade. It waits. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't trying to blow anything up. This wasn't drama. This was documentation. I'd even created a time-release email file, set to go out to donors, journalists, and university board members unless I disabled it by noon the next day. I didn't dress like someone coming to make a scene. White blouse, plain slacks, nothing flashy, nothing performative. I was a receipt in human form. The venue for the Delano Foundation fundraiser was a rental hall wrapped in clean lighting and curated flowers. I walked in quietly. They didn't notice at first, or maybe they did and hoped I'd walk right back out. I didn't. Alara stood at the podium talking about legacy, pride, family unity, words she tossed like candy into the crowd. I made my way to the donor table, set the envelope down gently, walked away without waiting for anyone to open it. 10 minutes later, I watched Alara's assistant check her phone. Her expression cracked. She nudged Lennox. He looked at the screen and paled. Serafina was already on her way to the hallway, dialing fast. I stayed near the water station, pouring myself a glass from the pitcher they'd set out. No one offered to serve me. They didn't need to. I drank slowly. I didn't yell, I thought. But now they're the ones scrambling for quiet. People's phones started buzzing. A wave of checking, pausing, double-taking. One man turned to his colleague and whispered. A woman across the room opened the email on her tablet, lips tightening. The blogger I'd seen at their last gala pulled out her phone. She didn't look shocked, she looked ready. And then someone said it out loud. Read it from their phone. A line from the forwarded message. She never had children, thank God. Imagine her passing that down. The room froze. Eyes turned to Alara. Then to me. Serafina stopped mid-sentence on her call, her face draining. Alara approached me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You made your point, she said. Her voice low, tight. No, I replied, my tone even. I just stopped letting you rewrite mine. A man near the stage cleared his throat, loud enough to be heard. Did your mother really say that? Alara tried. That was a private message, out of context. A woman next to him muttered, So was she. For years. I didn't defend myself. I didn't need to. I walked to the stage, stepped up to the mic they'd left live. My name was in this family until they found it inconvenient. I never stopped being a Delano. They just stopped pretending they wanted me to be. No drama, no tears. I walked out, door closed behind me. The parking lot was mostly empty. I walked past cars, past the landscaping someone paid far too much for, out into the night air. My phone buzzed. A text. From Lennox. Come home. We need to fix this, please. I didn't open it, just let the screen fade. Fixing something broken isn't the same as pretending it never cracked. The new place was quiet in a way I hadn't felt in years. Not hollow, not heavy, just still. Tucson air moved differently than Flagstaff's. It didn't push, it waited. Boxes were half open, some still untouched. I wasn't in a rush. Everything here was mine, by choice, not inheritance. Plants sat on the windowsill like they belonged there. Books lined the bottom shelves. No framed family portraits, just moments. Graduation, my first check from the nonprofit, a thank you card from a stranger we helped during the wildfire season. I checked my phone once a day now, never before breakfast, never hoping for anything. Sometimes peace isn't silence. It's the absence of needing to explain. A pinboard leaned against the wall, half decorated, not with names I came from, but with who I'd chosen to be. I left the center blank. Still becoming. It was Thursday evening when the call came. Grandpa Edwin. I let it ring twice before answering. Hey, kid. His voice was steadier than I expected. I figured you might be done with all of us by now. I didn't answer that. He didn't need me to. You never had to prove yourself to me, he said. I always knew who you were. He paused, breathed. I found out what happened. Not from them. Someone at the fundraiser sent me the email. Said you handled yourself like a damn adult. I leaned back, stared at the ceiling. Write it down, he said. Your version. Don't let them bury it again. Then softer. I'm proud of you. Always was. We hung up. Later that week, I got a notification from a real estate alert I forgot to unsubscribe from. The Delano home, listed for sale. No ceremony. Just a quiet notice online. I didn't feel victory. Just relief. There was a time I would have fought to be back in that house. Now, I wouldn't take it if they handed it over. You don't heal by returning to the place that broke you. You heal by building something they can't knock down. I deleted the Zillow alert, didn't even open the listing. A few mornings after, I walked down to the mailbox in slippers and a robe, half expecting junk coupons. Instead, I found a cream envelope, no return address. Inside, a handwritten letter, dated 4 months earlier, signed by Edwin. I wanted you to have this whether I was here or not, it read. Legacy isn't in bloodlines, it's in character. You are my legacy. Tucked into the fold was a photo, him and me in the garden when I was 6, covered in mud, holding a wilted sunflower like it was a trophy. I sat on the floor and let myself cry. Not because I was broken, because I wasn't. Not anymore. That Friday night, I hosted dinner. Just 6 people. Coworkers, a neighbor, and someone I'd met in a book club. They laughed too loud, brought mismatched wine, told messy stories. Someone joked, "You're the mom friend." And I laughed, the kind that came from somewhere real. I pulled out the tea set I once bought for my mother, the one she gave away without opening. This table welcomed it. Some gifts, when returned, aren't wasted. They're just waiting for the right table.